Wonderful. So now this webinar meeting is being recording. Welcome to the Rose City Recreation Trail Project Community Meeting number 2. We're here tonight on a webinar function, which is a little bit different than your standard Zoom. Attendees are not going to be able to see each other in the room, but if you are seeing this screen with the slide up, Portland Parks and Recreation with the Rose City Recreation Trail Project slide, you are in the right place. It looks like a few folks are already figuring out the Q&A box, which is down below. I'm just going to give a few more moments here to allow some others to join us here tonight. All right. All right, folks, so I just answered a few questions that were dropped in the Q&A section, and I appreciate those who popped in there and utilized that. Moving forward, we're going to be focusing on some tech, and I just wanted to let you all know that there is a question and answer section that's going to be happening a little bit later on in the meeting, so I might not be able to get to your questions that are being dropped into the question and the answer section just yet. But we will open up that section and dive into a little bit more instruction on how to best use that. So welcome to the Rose City Recreation Trail Project Community Meeting. This will be the second community meeting that we've hosted. And we will adjourn the meeting at 7:30 this evening. It is being recorded in full, and that will be posted on the project webpage directly following this meeting. We are also recording the transcription, and so that will be included in the posting on the webpage as well. So we welcome you all here tonight, and let's get rolling on the slides. We can advance. All right, wonderful. So our meeting agenda this evening is as follows. We'll just have our welcome, and we're going to go over some meeting agreements. We're going to introduce our project team. We'll present the project background and the schedule and talk a little bit about what we've been doing since our last kickoff meeting in the spring. We'll be showing some trail designs and alternatives that have been developed. And then we're going to hear from our Portland Parks and Recreation Director of Golf Programs, Vincent Johnson, who's joining us here tonight. And we're also joined here tonight by the Portland Parks and Recreation Park Rangers that are familiar with this site. And then we're going to dive into the Q&A portion of the engagement, and we're going to go over some direction on how that is going to flow once we get to that part. And then we'll talk a little bit about our next steps in the project, and we're going to make sure that we're concluding the meeting tonight at 7:30 p.m. So next slide, please. So again, welcome. Tonight we have some meeting agreements to make sure that things are flowing smoothly and that we are making the best use of all of your time. So we're going to hold off on questions and comments for the Q&A portion of the meeting. Of course, you're welcome to drop them in the Q&A box. We're seeing them as they come in, but we might not be able to answer them directly until that reserved portion of the meeting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that process. We want to make sure that we are all respectful of people's opinions and views. We all have a various spectrum of what our opinions and views are on this project. So we want to make sure that we are speaking from personal experience and perspective. Using I statements is the best way to do that. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to provide input before a person speaks twice. So if you're planning on raising your hand, make sure that you're raising your hand and that other people have the opportunity to raise their hand and voice their own questions as well. We want to make sure that people recognize that their words have impact. So we're asking folks to refrain from inclusionary and derogatory terms during this meeting, not only when you are speaking and asking your questions, but also the words that you're using to type in your question and answer section. And we are having a zero tolerance for any name calling or aggressive behavior, and that is for what's in the chat and on what comes in the microphone. Zero tolerance rules means that we will mute or ask you to leave the meeting, and you're welcome to watch the meeting as it's recorded and posted on the website later, and you can reach out via email if you'd like to provide input or participate on the survey, but we do not have tolerance for name calling or aggressive behavior in this meeting here tonight. We also want to make an important note that the presentation tonight is going to be showing some more visually complex slides. If you have, if you would like any more information on these slides, please reach out to me and I can work with you to make sure that you are fully prepared and understanding what we're trying to present with these more visually complex designs here tonight. All right, great. We can move forward. Wonderful. So we're just going to do a quick intro on the project team. Some of you already know us from Portland Parks and Recreation. We have our project manager, Johnny Fain. Johnny Fain, you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Johnny Fain. I'll be walking through some of the 50% design plans for this project. So look forward to speaking with you all.
Great. And then myself, community engagement, Jenna Stathopoulos, they, she pronouns. My email address is posted on here. It's also posted on the project webpage. We're also joined tonight by our design team. Ben and Austin, would you like to come off and introduce yourselves to these fine folks?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ben Austin, and we have Brent. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Brent Walker.
Wonderful. Thank you both for joining us here tonight. Our design team is here to provide any clarifying or specifics on the designs, if any questions should come up that we need to address, but we welcome them tonight, and they've been working very diligently on developing these alternatives and design options. Wonderful.
Yeah, so with that, I'll jump in and talk a little bit about the project background. I'm going to go through this really quickly because we did run through this in our first community meeting, which you can go to the project website and view the video of that. But just a little bit about the video and kind of why we're doing this project and how it's funded. So there was a 2019 voter-approved Metro Parks and Nature bond measure that was vetted and approved by voters that included a local share allocation of about $32 million for Portland Parks and Recreation to enhance parks and do nature projects that were in line with the bond guidelines. And then in 2021, Parks conducted a robust community engagement campaign to kind of prioritize funding for certain projects. And that was where Rose City, the trail project, was identified as a priority to increase access to nature and to diversify activities within the open space so that the broader community could enjoy the open space. And some of those stipulations and project goals were improving access to nature, increased accessibility, which we'll talk about a little bit later, providing access for environmental education, and then providing access for underserved communities. And the way that funding came to this project was about $4 million, $2 million from the Metro Bond Local Share Project or bond, and then $2 million from our system development charges, which are a small charge attached to developers when they go submit for permitting to develop within the city. And then a little bit more about the project background and the schedule. So we're here in the design development phase, or the 50% design phase. We've been through the project startup phase this year and established kind of the scope of work and brought on Ben and Brent to be our designers. And then we had a first community engagement period. We took that feedback and listened to the community and technical advisors within parks, and we incorporated that into schematic designs. And then from the schematic designs, we further took and kind of honed into our design development phase. And I think Jenna is going to talk a little bit more about the community engagement process that we've engaged in so far.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. So the community engagement for Portland Parks and Recreation runs across a spectrum from informing folks to collaborating with folks. When we're informing folks, it's typically around something that we're not really seeking community input on, but we're letting people know what is going to be happening. Like if a tree falls down, we're going to inform the community when that is going to be removed and how it's going to be removed. Collaborate is more so along power sharing, where community members have all the decision-making power. For this project, the engagement level has been identified as inform, involve. And so it's a blend of letting folks know where decisions need to be made, and then also involving folks on where community input is going to be influencing the final design decision. And this was partially determined by the funding requirements that are available, by the fact that the trail is circumnavigating a golf course, and there's golf course operations that we have to be very careful of. It's also going to be impacted by environmental considerations, not only the flora and fauna of the area, but also the slope and the grade and just the more technical considerations of the property itself. So there are some design decisions that our design experts do have to make that are aligned with those requirements. This community engagement process has incorporated a few online meetings such as this, where we're presenting schematic designs and we're outlining where we're seeking community input. And then we're opening up community surveys where people can provide input on what their priorities are, what their preferences are, and what alternatives make sense for their goals in the project. These are all taken into consideration and reviewed with the project management team, internal decision makers, and our design team. And we work to incorporate and blend all of these broad perspectives and priorities to come up with a plan that meets the greatest good or compromise based off of what we're hearing from the diverse communities that we have in the area. This project specifically is seeking to center community members that have been historically marginalized and left behind in projects. And then it also has a large accessibility contingent. So we are focusing on what we're hearing from those segments of community members. And so that is where we've been with community engagement. We hosted a kickoff meeting in the spring. We opened up a community survey. We've heard a lot of great responses on that survey. We did some small tabling events at free summer events at local schools with small stakeholder groups. And we just wanted to build project awareness, get people signed up for the newsletter list so they can come back and join the second community meeting, and also provide more input on the next community survey. The community surveys that are open allow us to aggregate all the information in one place. It allows us to have and ask the same type of questions to everybody and get the same type of input. Yeah. So that's kind of where we've been with community engagement. It's been a pretty broad engagement on what we've been hearing and identifying a lot of different stakeholder groups. Also at the inform and involve level of community engagement, our City of Portland Public Involvement Handbook provides us some different engagement tactics that are available for us to use. And one of those tactics was a focus group, which is just a casual meeting of stakeholders, which represent centered community groups, and we invite them to come and have a conversation with the project manager. And that type of conversation allows us to have a more meaningful conversation than is typical in a large scale meeting or in an online webinar such as this. So that's where we've been in community engagement thus far.
That's great. Thanks so much, Jenna. So just a little bit more about what we've heard throughout that community engagement process. These are kind of, I tried to aggregate kind of the overall sentiments and a lot of the similar concerns and issues and priorities that we've heard from the community. And so I'm going to run through some of those real quick and then talk about how we kind of incorporated those into this phase of the design process. So we've heard a lot about exercise, prioritizing exercise, access to nature, and safety and commuting to school as folks' top priorities in the area. We've heard a good bit about in key areas. We've heard about creating consistent trail surfacing, so trying not to mix the trail surfacing too much. Provide a user experience. Some folks that natural surfacing is not ideal for users with mobility challenges. It just provides challenges with slopes, not a completely firm or stable surface. We've also heard that while some folks do love that as a soft trail, that it's difficult and it often gets muddy and wet in the winter. And we've heard from some golf course staff that it's messy to maintain and it gets kind of aggregated or migrated all over the golf course. We've also heard from our technical advisory committee from our parks maintenance staff that they need and require about 10 feet of asphalt trail for maintenance access. So if there is a tree that falls down or if they need to get to a trash can to empty it, that they need about a 10-foot wide path at the very least. We've heard a lot about separating slow and fast trail users for safety. And that could be either walkers and runners or walkers and cyclists or walkers and people in mobility devices. That presents some challenges when there's people close next to each other going at different speeds. So that's a priority for us to create safety in those areas. And then we've heard some feedback about ADA routes and keeping those out in the open and observable, where if folks need assistance that people can see them and they can wave down folks. We've heard about creating welcoming atmosphere for all the community members around the golf course. And really that's a priority in general of just opening up the space to all users. And then we've heard a lot about the Blue Trail on the east side, that it presents potential conflicts and some design challenges we'll get into later. And then we've heard about seating and gathering locations and keeping those out in the open and not necessarily putting those in the corners of the park or golf course or behind trees where folks can kind of linger or hang out, but keeping those open and visible. And then we've heard from the golf staff and from community members that this trail does present a lot of opportunities to align with golf's programs, current and in the future. And it does kind of align with current efforts to activate the clubhouse area and get more folks in there to enjoy that space. And then we've heard about opening up and opportunities for creating interesting cycling routes. That's something we'll talk about later. But it is an open space, so we are looking into that avenue, but we are not currently have not made any decisions about that just yet, but we'll talk about that here in a bit. So let's get into the design. Here is a slide showing the overall design. We've split the trail into 4 sections, and we're going to kind of break those down as we walk through the design and the plans. Just keep in mind when we're looking and walking through these, that these are 50% designs. These are still fairly conceptual, but the alignments of them are fairly dialed in. And we'll show some more details as we walk through, but we've split the trail into those 4 sections of the red primary trail, the green bluff trail, the yellow 72nd connector trail, and then the blue back 9 or nature trail, as we're calling it. The red trail, we're considering kind of the primary route because we do consider that the primary connector east to west from within Rose City Park all the way over to Northeast Thompson Street, where McDaniel High School sidewalk kind of currently dead ends. The green trail, we're considering that to increase access to nature, and we think that would solve that goal of increasing access to nature and enhancing current trails and enhancing the access that people have to get into the trees and away from busy streets. And then the yellow trail, we're considering that as another connector trail that would improve that north-south connector from all the way from Tillamook up to Northeast Sacramento. And we have talked to PBOT a good bit about that safe route to school. We have heard a lot from community members about that being a primary connector up to Roseway Heights Middle School. And we are definitely investigating how we can improve that as a safe route for kids to get up to school, as well as the red route for folks to get walking over to McDaniel High School. And then the blue back nine trail, that obviously trail does not currently exist. So that would be part of that goal that Metro laid out of increasing access to nature and getting folks away from busy streets so they can have that calming experience. So that's the overall trail overview. The trail around the green trail, the yellow trail, and the red trail around the western side or the front nine side of the golf course would be about 1.4 miles. The trail around the back nine connecting the red, yellow, and blue would be about 0.9 miles. So all in total, it's about a two mile trail, which is a really nice section of trail. The next slide is the plan showing sort of the front nine trail in more detail, kind of zoomed more in. So this is sort of our preferred concept. On the previous design sets, we showed alternatives. And so we sort of took those alternatives and gathered the feedback from the community and our technical advisory committees, the park staff and golf course staff, and as well as our focus groups and community surveys, and kind of created our preliminary preferred concept. And that concept is a 10-foot wide asphalt trail running from Northeast 62nd. It would connect to the currently existing trail at the park playground and run along the ridge where there's currently a desire path past Rice School, and then come down into the grove of trees and spur off to a potentially new ADA ramp and crosswalk to get folks over across Tillamook, and then continue onto the golf course. So we've heard a lot of questions about where exactly that trail would be. This would be inside the fence line, the current fence line on the golf course and on the golf course property. We've worked with our urban forestry team to kind of develop where exactly the trail can go as far as tree protection root zones. And so that's kind of why the trail is aligned where it is aligned. We've tried to keep it as far away from golf activities as possible while getting folks away from the street and under that nice row of trees, nice row of maples there on the southern side of hole number 1. You can kind of see the trail section cuts here. Here's section number 1 showing the 10-foot wide asphalt trail, and we would provide those gravel shoulders so for folks who don't prefer not to run or walk or roll on a paved path, but would prefer to use a soft surface. So that soft surface would be available on the shoulders for folks to run and walk and roll as they preferred. The trail continues up, and you can see here that we have potential path and stair ADA upgrades. So we are looking into making those upgrades. Whether or not we can incorporate that into this project, just as far as budget, that's going to be a big chunk of the budget. So we are investigating if we can find additional funding and potentially use funding from our ADA program to fix the existing staircase. We do understand that they're currently not ideal, and we understand that, and we're investigating options for how to fund that as a part of this project. That currently is just still an ongoing investigation. But if that ADA upgrade does happen, this trail would also be a 6 to 8 foot wide path running up through the north side of Rose City Park and connecting to those existing stairs. And then the trail also runs east along hole number 1, and then currently we don't have any designs showing parking lot because we are still under investigation of whether or not we can upgrade the parking lot with this current project funding. Let's go to you can see this little icon here in the grove of Doug firs in the corner of Rose City Park. And the next slide is going to show kind of a blow up of what it might look like. So this slide is showing the 10-foot wide asphalt path running through the grove of trees, and then a couple of spurs coming off, one which would be an ADA connection to the Rice School parking lot, and then one that would be a spur coming down to Northeast Tillamook to a potentially new ADA crosswalk. We've had a lot of conversations with PBOT, and we are doing our best to work with PBOT on creating several new ADA locations. And this would be one of those new ADA crossings to get folks across Northeast Tillamook. The gathering, this shape is not determined, but this is just sort of a conceptual idea of what the gathering area and kiosk could look like. Kiosk that could have maps, community information about the trail, about wayfinding, about where the ADA routes go, where they don't go, about trail surfacing, and it could just be a kind of community resource to post information about what's going on in the community. The reason that we have two little sections of this gathering area is that we've heard from our natural area and natural educational awareness folks that they like to have two gathering areas with two seating areas. So when they have outdoor education classes, they can kind of have two separate spaces for folks to gather within hearing distance of each other so that they can have separate conversations, but still communicate with each other. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide is just showing a section. I think it's the section view, the section cut here looking east. So this could be what the kiosk area could look like. Could have some natural seating and boulders. They kind of delineate the area. Could have a covered kiosk to keep folks out of the rain, maybe some formal seating, like a bench. As folks pass by, they could stop and gather. The next slide is showing the kind of blow up of the Back Nine Trail. This would be somewhat of a continuation of the West Side Trail. This is still the primary trail just on the east side of the golf course, starting at number 10 on the east side of Northeast 72nd. So here's number 10 tee box. And so starting out, this would also be, as you can see from this section, a 10-foot wide asphalt trail with 2-foot gravel shoulders. So you could have those both surface options. There could be some seating right along in that open space and perhaps some outdoor fitness equipment. We're not proposing an outdoor fitness area like a playground with surfacing on the ground. We're just proposing some simple workout equipment like pull-up bars, chin-up bars, push-up bars for folks while they're exercising to kind of get a better exercise or more full exercise experience. We had that outdoor fitness area on this eastern portion of the course, but what we heard from community members and from the focus groups was that folks really wanted us to keep those types of amenities out in the open where people could be seen, and so people couldn't loiter in areas that were less visible just for safety reasons. So we spoke with the golf course staff and some of the focus group members to sort of determine that they thought this might be a better area for those types of activities, just because it's right by the street, folks can see it, it's nice and open, and it doesn't encourage people to just kind of hang around and stay. On sort of as we move east along the trail past number 10 green, we move up. The trail is going to have to narrow. We've spoken to urban forestry and walked the site several times with our urban forestry department. And we really want to prioritize the health of the existing trees on the site. So we're going to have to narrow the trail in some situations just to stay out of their root zones. So the trail would have to narrow along the fence line here behind 10 and 11. As the trail curves around and comes over to Northeast Thompson Street, there would be an additional access point and perhaps even adding public sidewalk. We're working with PBOT. Let me zoom in here. So we're working with PBOT to see if we can potentially bump out the trail into the right of way, because there's currently a large stand of mature Doug fir trees that are right on the edge of the property line. So we've spoken with our forestry department, and they really don't think we can squeeze a trail in there in really any form. So we're working with PBOT to see how we can make that connection at Northeast Thompson of the existing sidewalk there. So we're thinking that the trail could swing out and then connect to a new ADA ramp here in the corner of Northeast Thompson. And then this would be sidewalk infill that would connect to the existing sidewalk. We are in the process of discussing how we can work that out with PBOT. Yeah, and then you would be able to, that would create that full connection from Northeast 62nd on the west side of Rose City Park all the way through the space to Northeast Thompson. So that's a pretty high priority, just given the goals that Metro has laid out of improving connectivity throughout the entire space. We've also spoken to PBOT's Safe Routes to School manager, and this section of the sidewalk and section of the street is on their list of priorities for safe routes to school. So they are working with us to perhaps prioritize this section of sidewalk.
And Johnny, I'm just gonna let everybody know that I am dropping in the interactive map from the Safe Routes to School, where folks can see more information
Great.
about current locations for Safe Routes to School that have been identified as needing improvements, but it does not mean that those areas have current funding
Sure.
for those improvements. So we're always looking for ways to support one another to meet those goals.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to visit that Safe Routes to School site. It's pretty informative. So moving on, we're going to move to the Green Bluff Trail. And this is kind of a blow up. We're back on the eastern side of Rose City of the golf course. So here's the front nine of the golf course here. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Front nine of the golf course here. Here's the parking lot. Here's Rose City Park and Rice School. The playground is here, and existing staircase is here. So we're talking about the sort of existing bluff trail that the Bluff Restoration Group has done so much amazing work on. So one of our goals for this project obviously was to increase access to nature and to enhance existing trails. So we really, throughout the project, have not wanted to take this trail away from the community, because we know it's such an amazing resource, and folks have done such an amazing job of coming together and creating something that everyone in the community loves. And we do not want to detract from that in any way. Our goal is to enhance this section of the trail as best we can, and while taking into considerations exactly what the community and the Bluff Restoration Group would like us to improve on. So we're planning on not making wholesale changes to this section of the trail, like repaving it or changing the character or nature of it. But we have been in really close communication with the Bluff Restoration Group, and we've walked the site with them several times to kind of glean exactly where the improvements they would like to see are, and what the sort of issues with the trail currently are. A lot of those issues revolve around wintertime use, and that the trail doesn't, it has a lot of low spots and it doesn't drain properly in the winter, so it gets muddy. I know that people still do use it in the winter, but we feel like it's not as accessible during the winter. So our hope is to repair some of those low spots and add drainage improvements to those low spots. You can see the two areas that we've identified. There's one main long area here, and then several low spots in the middle. We also want to enhance the junction areas where we know a lot of people come together. There's currently two trails that kind of come together in this location. So we're trying to enhance that junction to maybe widen it. You can see up here on the trail, this sort of plan view blow up, stabilizing the hillside with some boulders or natural stone wall, adding some split rail fencing for stability and for folks to kind of guide folks through the space, and then perhaps widening that junction so more folks can pass easily. as they move through there. Another improvement would be little bump outs along the trail. We obviously do not want to disturb any of the existing native plants that have been planted there. So we feel like creating bump outs in spaces where that's possible would be a nice space for folks to pass each other who are working or moving at different speeds, whether that's rollers or joggers or walkers or people using mobility devices. That would be a space where they can step aside if someone's coming up behind them and let folks pass in a safe manner. Those bump outs could also include seating, which could be natural seating like stones or boulders or logs. Or in some cases, they might just be open spaces for folks to kind of gather and stand aside while faster users walk by. We've also kind of identified a space on the edge of the fairway as a potential for native landscape buffer. So that's kind of a key or primary spot where golf balls tend to land. And so we feel like a natural buffer would be a good solution for that. Another section as we move to from east to west and get over to the corner. This is kind of currently the informal driving range that folks use to practice at Rose City Golf Course. And so we understand that, and we kind of have noticed and done site walks to see where the balls land. So we're really hoping and trying our best to keep the trail out of those locations. There currently is sort of a side path that folks cut through and use. And so we're looking to formalize that with some type of gravel trail, more than likely, probably 6 feet wide, that kind of cuts through and eases some of those grades and makes it easier for folks to get down the hill and connect back over to 72nd. We're also investigating, but nothing has been settled about off-road cycling. We do feel this would be if we're going to do it, this would be a good space to do it in, but that has not been settled, and we're still under investigations on that. We've also got a section cut about what's going on 72nd. We understand that currently, and we have heard that some folks don't feel very safe as they cross. Most folks walk the bluff trail and either cut through here to get down to 72nd or walk around, and then there's sort of a natural crossing at the base of the hill to get over to the primary shoulder on the eastern side of 72nd. So we're investigating ways that we can make that safer for people and help cars slow down as they come down the hill. And the next slide, that's what this section here is showing, is how we could delineate those spaces. Currently, the eastern lane of 72nd Drive is pedestrian only, and we have been in talks with PBOT. We understand that there's no signage and there's no current delineation, so folks aren't feeling super safe on that area of the road. We have heard from PBOT that they are going to add some type of lane barrier to divide those two spaces for safety in the future. They haven't said exactly when that's going to happen, but they have said that is in the works. And then that we are hoping with this project to enhance that gravel edge on the eastern section, to widen that and perhaps provide some delineation of uses so that folks kind of know where to be or guided where to be. Through signage, it could be natural, as in boulders or logs, could be a split rail fence type of situation as well to kind of delineate those uses. So we are showing here at the northern side of 72nd, the slopes that run up to Northeast Sacramento Drive. We understand that a lot of folks walk up that slope, and currently it's very sloped. It's 25 to 30%, which is really steep. So our next slide is showing a plan view of some kind of preliminary designs of how we could attempt to get folks up that hill in a safer way. So these trails would all be gravel, soft surface. These trails would not be ADA compliant. but they would be much, much, much easier to get up. Currently, the grade is anywhere from, as I said, 25 to 32%. And we would attempt to make those grades 9% going up to 12%. And the reason that we designed this layout the way we did was to provide alternates for folks. So some of the routes, as in this S curvy route, would be a little bit steeper. So folks that are moving at faster speeds could take that route. Folks that are walking at slower speeds or using the trail at slower speeds could use a spur trail. And that would kind of delineate how folks get down the trail. So users could kind of separate according to speed. We would add split rail fencing on those edges so folks could rest or use that for stability as they get down the side, the slope. And then there could be opportunity for some bump outs with seating, possibly benches, or it could be natural seating throughout that space, just for so folks could either gather, school kids could gather, or just step aside and let folks pass. So that's the plan on Northeast Sacramento. The next slide is the Back Nine Trail, the trail that is proposed along the northeastern bluff of the golf course. So to orient you, here's hole 15, the tee box. Here's the green for 14. The existing pond is here. And showing the hatch marks, as you can see from the legend, the green hatch marks are the environmental conservation zones. And that's just to protect those large mature trees and protect the environment throughout that, as it is a great natural resource. And the environmental protection zone is in brown, and that just is a zone to protect the wetland areas on the golf course. You can see that the trail is currently proposed in some of those environmental conservation zone areas. We've talked to BDS, who wrote these conservation requirements, and they have stated that if the trail is under 36 inches or below, we do not have to go through a land use review process. But if it's 36 inches or above, we do have to go through a land use process, which is just a review to review whether or not the trail as proposed would be harmful to the environment. And that's a normal process that every project goes through for permitting. So let's just keep that aware. As it's currently proposed, it's 6 feet wide, but that is still up for debate, and we're gonna talk about how we're gonna determine that a bit later. So currently we have it sort of hugging the tree line along the top of fairway 16, and you can see from this section that it would be kind of a bench cut trail to make it a flat grade into the hillside, running along the tree line, and then there's about 60 to 80 to 100 feet down to the fairway. And that would run along from east to west. And currently we have provided several alternatives that we're gonna ask for your feedback about. We've heard and understand that this presents a lot of concerns from many people, presents definitely some more design challenges than the other trail does because of the amount of different uses in this area. So we're really considering heavily and weighing your feedback. So we really do want you to give us your feedback on this. I'm gonna show you some other design alternatives. This is the first design alternative that shows the trail going in front of the par 3 15 tee box. And so we would put signage and make folks aware that, hey, walkers are coming up and there may be golfers, so please communicate or wait if there's a golfer teeing off. And then we have another route. I'll just go straight to that. Another alternate route going behind 15 tee box. This route does present a lot of challenges because it goes into the existing slope. The slope gets very steep behind 15 tee box. So this trail routing would probably require a retaining wall of some kind, which obviously adds expense to the project. And then a third route would be what we're calling a spur trail. And that spur trail could come off of the primary trail near Northeast Thompson and be a loop through the existing Doug Fir stand up above the pond area. we know that this is one of the most beautiful spaces on the golf course, and as a part of that, those metro goals defined by voters, we really think that getting folks away from the busy street and onto the back nine of the course does kind of accomplish that goal of providing greater access to nature. And so this is another alternative that could create that greater access to nature while staying out of this busy golf course area. So those are kind of three alternates for design. I'll go back and kind of talk about some of the other design concepts on here. The trail would then run up in this concept by the existing bathroom, so folks could have access to that while using the trail. This area in the wooded area that we have circled currently is a maintenance kind of stockpile where maintenance for the golf course have dumped their spoils. They dump soil and stones and boulders, and it's also just kind of covered in blackberries and invasive species. So there is a potential for us to kind of clean out that area and remove the invasive species and work with our ecologically sustainable landscapes program for a potential natural area in that space, which we think would be a really nice asset for the community. Yeah, here again, we're showing the existing sidewalk and how that would connect to 82nd Avenue. Then run through the different alternatives. We talked about the alternatives. The spur trail. And then I think it's this is the yeah, that's the full design package we have so far. So I'm getting a time warning from Jenna, which is great because I'm about to wrap up. And so now it's time for the question and answer portion of this webinar, which I'm going to pass back to Jenna. And with your comments and questions, I can go back to any slides that you want to refer to. So just let me know which slide you want me to go back to, and I'm happy to do that.
That's great, Johnny. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking, and I want to share that I'm seeing a few questions from one individual, and as we stated earlier, we'd like to address as many individual and their questions as possible. So if you could share with us which question you would like of yours to be prioritized, I can get those answers. I'll just give you a second to let us know which it is. I'm seeing that some attendees are raising their hand, and while we kind of wait for that cue to be navigating, I am going to say Johnny, one of our questions is regarding the red trail. Let's pull up the overview of all the trails. One of our questions is, why do you keep saying the red trail is the connection to McDaniel and the yellow trail is shorter, more direct route to McDaniel from areas around the Ellington? So I'm assuming that we mean areas south of Tillamook and that connection.
I don't think I understand the question.
I believe that the question is proposing that the yellow trail is the shorter route to McDaniel High School.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that we are considering the red trail and the yellow trail as kind of the two primary connection trails. It's just a way of kind of splitting up the trails. I apologize that maybe the names aren't as appropriate as they should be, but we're considering the red trail to be the primary connection from the western part of the property all the way through into the eastern side of the property, and the northeast 72nd Drive would be the primary connection from south to north. So yeah, that's the way that you walk to McDaniel High School, or folks walk to McDaniel High School. This is going to greatly impact that in a positive way, we feel.
Right. And for folks who are not able to make it up the grade on 72nd Drive, the Tillamook option provides a flat walking pathway,
Right.
a walking pathway, which might make it easier for folks to get there.
Yeah, one of the biggest delineations in those two trails would be the red trail would be fully ADA compliant. So it would be flat, firm, usable all year round, and a paved surface. Whereas the 72nd connector would not be fully ADA accessible. It would just be improved and widened and more stable than it currently is.
Right. And the red trail along Northeast Tillamook Street, specifically near the 78th and Thompson area, has been identified as a segment for the Safe Routes to School, one of their primary investment routes. And so putting a trail here is also aligned with the Safe Routes to School. Okay. All right, so moving forward, we have another question about the red trail, which is a question, let me see. What fairways is the red trail traveling along?
The fairway, this is fairway number 1, and it would be in the open space that's to the south of fairway number 1. Number 1 tee box is here and number 1 green is here. And then on the eastern side, it would follow along fairway 10. Fairway 10 is the tee box is here, and then the fairway, and then the green, and then the red trail is in the open space that's about 100 feet or so away from that fairway.
Okay, great. All right. And let's perhaps get some attendees to speak. We're going to come back to the questions that are in the chat as well, but I just want to, let's break it up a little bit. So, Yannette, if you could help us navigate to whom had their hand raised first. And then,
Richard is first.
yeah. And so just a reminder, because we have a limited time, we are going to set a timer for 1 minute. When you're coming off mute, Richard, you'll have 1 minute to speak. And when the timer goes off, we're going to put the microphone back on mute. And we thank you for your patience with that. And then if you're mid-sentence, we apologize, but we do want to keep things fair and moving. And so we would encourage you to provide your input or wrapping up the question either in the chat box. You can email me directly or provide that input on the community survey that's going to be open. All right, Richard, so let's get you set up here. Okay, go. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. A lot of good work. Jonathan, great presentation. First of all, I'm a lifelong Portlander and golfer, and I really support shared park space. This is going to preserve all of our rights to have green space, which we badly need. So I'm going to go to the first question, which is our concern is the blue trail. And that's the problem area. And I understand the cost to have the alternative 1 built. Alternative 2, unfortunately, or the other one that comes up from Thompson, that doesn't connect the blue trail to the top. What I would recommend is that you use that natural cart path on the, I'm going to say, the east side of the teeing area. And if you need to make room for walkers, move the teeing area forward. You don't have to build a retaining wall. You're going to have to raise the elevation of that tee box so you have enough room for the tee box. It's a really wide tee box. And actually, that's the safest route because then the walkers will stay east of the playing.
Richard, thank you so much. That input is so helpful. That detailed input is exactly what we're looking for on the community needs survey in the open comment box, and you have much more time to elaborate. So thank you, Richard, for being here, for starting that conversation. I would really encourage you to either complete the community needs survey, but if you're not, or the community survey, and if you're not able to, please feel free to email and reach out to Johnny or I to provide that perspective. That would be great. So Yannette, would you like to call and unmute our next person in line, please?
Right on, Catherine.
Catherine, welcome. You are unmuted, so please ask your question.
I was curious about the red trail being inside the gate and how, or the fence, and how far it was going to be from the maple trees that are existing, and how much exposure the maple trees that have been there for a while are going to have from an asphalt surface. I can't hear. Okay.
Donnie, you're muted.
Donnie.
That's a great question, Catherine. Thank you for asking that. We have walked the sites many times with our urban forestry, and in order to receive a permit to build any of this, our urban forestry has to sign off on whatever we build. And so we have the trail is aligned outside of that tree root protection zone. So they have a sort of a matrix or a way of calculating with different types of trails how far away from the tree's roots the trail needs to be. And so we kind of, that's the reason there's sort of subtle jogs and twists and turns in the trail, is so we can keep the trail out of those tree root protection zones. And so we really are trying to stay as far away from the tree's root zones as we can, while trying to stay as far away from the golf course's fairways. We're trying to kind of balance that. But yes, we are taking in very heavily into consideration the protecting those trees, those existing trees, because we know they're a huge asset to the golf course and the park and the community.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh,
All right, Mike, you're up next.
hi, Mike, you are off mute and ready to roll.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome, Mike.
Howdy, I live right on the 16th fairway, and I've played this course for 30 years. How are you going to protect people on 1 and 10 and 16 for errant golf balls?
That's a great question, Mike. We do understand that people walking on golf courses poses some risks, but we also understand that golf courses all over the world and all over our state have trails on them. As this golf course is a public open space, part of the trail project goals are to create that greater access to this open space. And so we think that putting the trails where we've proposed them currently, for the most part, keeps folks out of risk of golf balls. But we also understand that there are some risks. So we're hoping to minimize that risk as best we can through signage, through landscape barriers, such as adding trees and shrubs in strategic areas. But for the most part, just trying to keep the trail out of those primary areas where golf balls do land. But we understand that it does pose some risk, and we are considering that heavily in the design process.
Thank you.
Great,
And
thank you.
Elizabeth, you're up next.
Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to understand the different colors. I missed the first part of the meeting. So
Okay, I'll go back.
Oh, yes.
I'm just trying to understand, is there a question about whether each of these different colors will happen at all, or they will all be just for with different considerations?
Yeah, they're just broken up the way they are because they have different considerations, and just as a way of delineating kind of what they do and how they function. So the red trail would be kind of the primary access from west to east, kind of moving through the southern portion of the golf course and park. And then the northern bluff trail is the current existing green trail, which most folks refer to as the Bluff Restoration Trail. And then the yellow trail is the current sidewalk and shoulders of Northeast 72nd Drive. And then the back nine trail, the blue trail, is a proposed trail that would give folks new access to the back nine. But it's mostly just a way of naming the trail systems and breaking them down for us to be able to investigate the designs for those trails.
Great. And Johnny, I've heard some questions before around, are all of these trails happening? Are some of these trails not happening?
Sure. Right now, we do feel that the red trail, the yellow trail enhancements, and the green trail enhancements can be fully funded as proposed. And the back nine blue trail, there more than likely is budget for in some considerations or in some alternatives. But that's what we're going to be asking folks on the upcoming community survey is to help us prioritize where to put that funding and to really understand where folks would like us to prioritize our funding. And so in some cases, perhaps, the blue trail could have certain amenities or could not have certain amenities. And that's just a part of the budget considerations, but we're really hoping to investigate that more on the next upcoming survey, which I know Jenna will talk about more after the question and answer portion of this.
Okay, so we're really going to be asking community on a broad scale to share, would we like to have the back nine course, and which alternative would be the most preferred by community members, and then depending on that wide perspective from a broad range of community members will contribute to that final design on the back nine blue trail.
Exactly.
Is that a fair? Okay, great. We do have a few questions in the chat that I'm trying to summarize into one. They're going to be talking more so about the off-road cycling segment. So if we want to pull up the existing Nature Bluff Trail, where it has the minimal off-road cycling segment. Somebody is asking, like, what does that mean? What would be the
Sure.
point of having such a small off-road cycling segment?
It's a good question. We have heard from many folks in the community that they do want us to investigate incorporating off-road cycling. And I think what people mean by off-road cycling is away from paved roadways where cars, because most cyclists like to, just like walkers and joggers and other people who experience the trail system, cyclists would prefer to be away from cars and separated from cars for safety considerations and for noise and just for a peaceful experience. So we are investigating what locations would be the best, safest locations for that type of cycling. I will say, as it's stated on the fact page, so you can go on the project website, and I would encourage everyone on the project website and look at that page. It has a lot of the frequently asked questions, and sort of we try to best we can address those frequently asked questions. But as far as off-road cycling, folks already use this bluff trail as people cycle on it, as well as walking and rolling. And so we don't want to take that away from folks, and we are investigating where the best locations or best opportunities, if we were to incorporate some type of off-roads, where would be the best opportunities and the safest opportunity to do that. And so the project has brought on a cycling and trails consultant to investigate that and to create a report. And so we're still awaiting that report, but that will kind of help us guide if we incorporate cycling in any part of this project, would be the safe place to do that. How can we integrate all those uses? And have about exactly what where, but we are getting that information as far as safety and opportunity zones. And so this space is one of the opportunity zones that's been identified.
It meets a need for urban mountain bikers in Portland that don't have cars or don't have reliable transportation, because there is a lack of off-road cycling opportunity in the city, and this is just a great way to provide that opportunity for that population. So thank you.
Great, thanks for that feedback, Jay. Appreciate that. Next question.
We have Nathan. You're off mute.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Jonathan, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the thoroughness and professionalism of the materials you have here. In short, I am in favor of all aspects of this proposal, particularly the extension of the North Side Trail over to McDaniel High School. It would give me and my extended family, children, grandparents, access to this wonderful asset that our community has. So thank you very much. And I look forward to participating in future meetings such as this and in the survey that is you will be posting. So again, thank you very much. This is a wonderful project and I'm excited to see it continue.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, the survey should be open by Friday evening, and I think Jenna's going to send out a blast about that. So everybody who's on the mailing list will see this survey being opened. But also just keep an eye out on the project website for that survey. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you. And we have Aaron up next. Aaron, you're off mute.
Hi, thank you. Yeah. First of all, this is fantastic. For those of us who've lived in the neighborhood for a while, you see the path of desire already trudged in the dirt or earth around this golf course. But speaking specifically about the back 9 course, which is going to be fantastic. I think another thing that gives us an opportunity to do is just clean up that area. Because, as a father of 2 students at McDaniel High School, I see the bramble growing in and over into the access road to go to the upper parking lot from the golf course. It's kind of getting out of hand. So it'd be good to really see something happen there in terms of developing and cleaning it up. And thank you all for this project. This is fantastic.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. That's great. Specific feedback. Appreciate that.
And I think that's it no, I don't see any more hands.
Okay. Do you want to read off some of the questions in the Q&A section, Unit?
Yeah, sure. I don't know where Jenna was, but
Yeah, I think something happened. She had a technological issue apparently.
yeah, I think she's in, but I think she's getting connected with the audio.
Okay. I can kind of run through the questions, Jeanette, if you don't mind.
Okay.
From Jay Fields, or from an anonymous person, is the Bluff Trail going to be paved? No, neither of the Northern Bluff trails would be paved. We're proposing them as both soft surface. Off-road site from Jay Fields, off-road cycling is not considered for the Bluff Trail ? Off-road cycling is being considered, as currently folks are already cycling on the Bluff Trail. We are considering cyclists on all parts of the trail system, but we have not made any decisions about that as of yet. Let's see. Let's see. Yes, Robert Price asks, is a land use review for trail width over 36 inches a type 2 process, or does it involve a public hearing? From what I have read, Robert, and been told by BDS, it is a type 2 process. Here's a question from someone anonymous about who will maintain all of this, and how is it now being maintained? How will we keep homeless folks out of the space, and kids partying? We have a process for developing maintenance strategies, and that involves cost estimations. So once we know exactly where the trails are going and what is going to be built, we have a process for determining how much that's going to cost annually. And then we go to each of our maintenance divisions, aka the golf maintenance staff, the park maintenance staff, and the natural areas staff or trail staff. And we're going to have those conversations and meetings about who's going to maintain. That kind of depends on what type of trail it is. So for soft surface trails, there's a different type of maintenance than for hard surface trails. So that is all going to be developed in the next phases of the project when we know exactly how much paved space there's going to be, how much soft surface trails there's going to be, where the trash cans are potentially going to be, where seating is going to be. So all that will be developed in the next type of phase of the project. And then let's see. Mel asked, what is the cost of each proposed section? So let me go back to the main section of trail. We only have, cost estimates at this point for what is proposed, and they're basically a range of cost. But the red trail currently, as it's proposed, all the way through from the Rose City Park all the way to McDaniel High School, as it's shown here, at 10-foot wide asphalt would be around 30% of our construction budget. The enhancements to the Green Bluff Trail would run from about 8 to 12% of our construction budget. The yellow path would be about 15 to 20% of our construction budget. And the blue trail would run from about 12 to 20% of our construction budget. And that leaves wiggle room for adding those amenities like seating and a trail mapping and signage and a kiosk area, and perhaps some split rail fencing to kind of guide those folks throughout the space. So that's kind of the cost ranges that we have at this point. Okay, here's a good question from Hazel. I'm just hoping you could clarify something that has come up in discussion about this. Are there plans to remove trees or disrupt wildlife habitat? There are not any plans to remove healthy or even marginally healthy trees. The only trees that are under consideration for removal are trees that are completely dead at this point, and that kind of benefits the golf course and the trail project to remove them. If there are trees that are dead that are outside the scope of the project and are away from the trail and aren't dangerous, we would hope to leave those trails for habitat, or leave those dead trees for habitat as a habitat snag. And then disrupting wildlife habitat, we understand, that there's a lot of birds that nest in these areas. There's a lot of hawks and owls and raptors, and there's a lot of small animals such as mice and rabbits and even coyotes. And we definitely do not want to disrupt their nesting. And so we've walked the site and kind of pinpointed where those nests are. And we really believe that having folks walk by near to trees where birds are nesting is not going to disturb their habitat. And in certain locations, we do have funding to provide additional native plantings. And so we are hoping to clean out some of the vegetated areas that are taken over by invasive species and incorporate some new native plantings in those areas to increase and enhance the habitat in those areas. Let's see. Is there a plan for all the colors of the trail to be created, or is there a possibility only some of the colors will be created? I think this is from Elizabeth, but that's a good question. It depends on the scale of the trail. But we do have funding to construct the trail as it is currently proposed, but that does not mean we can construct all the trails and include all those amenities. So perhaps if we build the entire loop, that might mean we don't have funding to build a kiosk area, or we don't have funding to create some of the rock walls or increase drainage. So building that entire loop could possibly impact some of those amenities and might remove the possibility of building kind of a full access or fully fleshed out trail system with seating and with walls and with signage and with maps and kiosks. So that's just kind of the give and take that may have to occur due to the funding. We are going to ask some more questions about priorities, the community's priorities on the upcoming survey. So please do keep that in mind when you're taking the survey.
Johnny, two other questions I think worth answering. One is about anything that we've learned from Glendower, which we have, and it would probably be great for you to touch on. And then the other one was about lighting.
Sure. Thanks, Ben.
Lighting.
I could use a helping hand with the moderation.
Yeah, I
Thank
know.
you. Okay, so Glendoveer, yeah, as you all know, or maybe not all of you know, but Glendoveer is a trail or is a golf course that is east of Rose City Golf Course. I think it's on 162nd in Southeast. And they currently have about a 40-year-old trail that is anywhere from 12 to 20 foot wide, 100% or 100% wood chip trail. I have called and talked to many people at Glendoveer. I've gone to Glendoveer several times and talked with the golf superintendent and golf maintenance staff. Their comments are that it's not disruptive to the golf course. There have been some interactions with golf balls, but it's been very minimal. And that people absolutely adore that trail, and tons of people use it every day. So we're hoping that provides a precedent for golf courses around perimeters of golf course, or trails around perimeters of golf courses. Because after all, in this case, Rose City, this is a publicly owned open space, and part of our mission is to provide access to and create and enhance more access to the property and to the golf course. So Glendoveer serves as a pretty good precedent. We understand that it's not one-to-one. They're not exactly the same spaces. They're unique spaces. And so we're trying to address some of those design challenges that Rose City Golf Course presents. What was the other question, Ben?
The other question was about lighting.
Oh, lighting. Lighting is currently not a part of the scope of this project. We've spoken to some folks in the wildlife community, specifically in the BAO, the Birding Alliance of Oregon, formerly known as the Audubon Society, and they agree with us that lighting along the trail does present problems for wildlife, and does sort of bring up that light pollution aspect. So even with that considered, lighting has never really been considered a part of this project. It just would be really expensive and would take away from the amount of trails that we could actually build.
Perfect. And then there was a question about liability related to golf balls. I know we touched on it a little bit, but I don't think that angle necessarily has been or whether you know the answer, or I don't know, Vincent.
Yeah, we did. I think that was from Richard, who accepts liability. We did talk to the city attorney several times, and just like at Glendoveer or at other golf courses, or at any park for that matter, or sports field or parking lot, folks accept risk for walking almost anywhere. So our city attorneys have advised us that providing that explicit signage and signage making folks aware of danger zones and potential issue zones, and doing everything we can through design and through natural barriers creates that lack of liability. So I think that's just what we've heard from the city attorney.
Great. And then there was a question about funding for native plants.
Yeah, there is some funding as a part of the budget. I think it was about 4 to 6% for native plantings. So we are working with our ecologically sustainable design landscape initiative to see if there's possible spots where they can help us out with native plants. We're working with the Bluff Restoration Group to see kind of where they think opportunities are for native plantings. And we do want to protect and enhance those wildlife habitats with improved planting areas and more native plants. So yeah, that's definitely a part of the project.
Johnny, I think this might be a good time. We have just over 30 minutes left in the meeting. If we want to have our guest speakers join.
Sure.
And I know there's been some comments about safety concerns. And so we have our park rangers here tonight. Also some comments and questions about golf course revenue. And so we also have our golf course program director here with us tonight. So if we want to pass the pass the torch. So we're going to conclude the Q&A section of tonight's meeting. Really appreciate you all working with us to navigate the Q&A, your patience. And so again, this is not the only time, the last time that you're going to be able to provide feedback. We'll be opening up the community survey. There will be open comment portions for you to provide that feedback there. You can always reach out to Johnny and I via email to share your feedback, and that gets shared with the design team as well. All right, and how do we answer the questions that did not get addressed? So we are going to encourage folks to put the questions that they asked that were not able to get addressed in the community survey that will be opening up this week for the project. And perhaps our rangers and director of golf programs will be able to address some of those questions as they chime in here. All right, so Vincent Johnson, welcome, Portland Parks Director of Golf. Many of you have probably seen him around the Rose City Golf Course. My friend, if you would like to come off mute and introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about who you are and what your involvement in this project has been.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jenna. You know, and I do feel like giving a little bit of a golf lens. There's probably a little bit of a mix, at least with the questions I've heard around some are golfers, some are not. So I wanted to kind of give just a broader sense of golf, again, a little bit of my background. So some of these things, Jenna, maybe on the back end, you might, you know, if you want to direct me in any way, just to kind of help wrap this up, please let me know. But anyways, here's what I wanted to do and share. But ultimately, I'm Vincent Johnson, as said. I'm the director of golf for Portland Parks and Recreation for 6 years now. It's been a blur. Most people working in the golf industry usually derives from, you know, some sort of connection with golf. I'm no exception. I'm a Portland product. I grew up as a public golfer at Glendoveer. My father was the mechanic there, and I remember growing up when I would practice a lot. I'd walk down to a shop and wrap my split fingers with electrical tape so they wouldn't bleed. I played a lot of other sports growing up, but golf was number one for me. Although I played Glendoveer most, living in the David Douglas School District, Rose City was the Portland Parks golf course I played the most growing up. I played there. I competed there. Every year, Rose City hosts the Bob Allard Memorial Tournament. This is a really major tournament for junior golfers. It's kind of towards the end of the summer, and so it's kind of, for some golfers, it's kind of a make or break with how the rest of the year can go. I remember as an 11-year-old, I remember the joy I felt overcoming my nerves, and I actually won that tournament as a peewee, and went on to win that tournament a couple more times. But golf can be humbling too. And so I assume if I could see some faces of golfers on the screen here, I'd get some head nods. If I didn't, then I would be asking for tips. But I went on to play at Oregon State. And as a collegiate player, I also remember playing Rose City, and I walked off the course in tears after I lost in a playoff for a qualifier for a national event. And so, you know, because of that, I wanted to share those experiences. One, to show that, you know, some of the life lessons that I learned from golf, you know, humility, you know, perseverance, discipline, those types of things. I've really been fortunate to learn these types of lessons through the game. And some of them I carry to this day. And some of them actually come in handy as of right now. But I also wanted to share these experiences to show you how impactful Rose City Golf Course has been in my life, and that I recognize how crucial this space is as a public golf course. As the director of golf, I can tell you that there are countless others that are creating their own stories on a daily basis at our golf course. Last year, fiscal year 24, Rose City saw over 48,000 rounds on its grounds. It's really, we've seen a large increase in interest in the game since the COVID-19 pandemic. We were able to provide service with our ability to social distance by design of the game. A lot of people came to the game and really were fulfilled, so that we've had a lot of retention with the increase that we've seen since pre-COVID years. As the system includes its 5 unique properties spread across the Portland metropolitan area, Portland Parks Golf is an enterprise fund. and which means that its funding comes from the revenues generated at the golf course. So greens fees, which are golf rounds, carts, lessons, food and beverage, these fuel and pay for expenses for the golf program. We do not receive taxpayer dollars. And with our variety of geographic location, course layouts, and offerings, it allows us to provide high service levels to golfers in the Portland metropolitan area. And also, as a self-sustaining system that's entering its 106th year, so we started in 1918 with Eastmoreland Golf Course. We help Portland Parks and Recreation achieve its mission of providing equitable access to welcoming spaces, programs, and services that improve the community health and the environment. And, when you look back, there's a lot of history to be really proud about as far as what Portland Parks Golf has been able to do to, again, impact and help realize that mission. But also looking back at golf, we can also see that there's been barriers to the game. And so from my own experience, in those same events that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, the Bob Allard, the qualifier that I missed out on, I was most often in those events, and a lot like them growing up. I was the only Black participant in the field pretty much every time. And for success, for golf's future, for Portland Parks golf future, the golf industry really as a whole, the approach, we must learn from what our past looked like, how we operated. And so this is the lens I bring as the director of golf. This is my experience. And because I know the countless benefits that the game has to offer, I want to see how our golf program can continue to lower barriers to the game and that people can enjoy for their entire lifetime. And that definitely is not hyperbole. We have golfers from 6 to 86 and beyond that play our golf courses. And so it's a really, really remarkable game and a really amazing way that we can, again, help provide a recreational option with the Parks and Rec portfolio. But making for the future of golf, making our spaces more inclusive and crucial is crucial, to golf's long-term future. And it's important for the public to know that our clubhouses are welcoming spaces where they can grab a bite to eat, that our practice putting green is free, that it's free use if you wanted to use our practice putting green. There are also other ways that we've realized opportunities to get neighbors and others engaged in at our golf course at Rose City. This past summer, Rose City served host as a site for Portland Parks and Recreation Fitness in the Park, which for those who don't know, it's a free fitness program. So it's throughout all over that it's administered all over, and there's sites all over the Portland system, the Portland Park system. But we thought it was a really, really great opportunity to, again, have folks be able to engage with the space and again, help serve the neighbors that we endear around our golf course. In 2022 and 2023, we hosted a community day at Rose City. So this was a new idea, new event where we partnered with Summer Free for All and had a live concert. We had activities and tabling and golf games that were all free to really promote, our golf course, our golf program, what we had to offer. Some that are actually listening on this call, I see they participated in the event. So we had event steering committee comprised of neighbors, neighborhood association folks, our golf advisory committee. They again were on the steering committee. They volunteered. They helped find additional volunteers. They help organize the event. And so just again realizing what opportunities there are to work with the golf course. Both these things worked really harmoniously with our golf operation. These types of opportunities that we've realized, they've been well received by peers throughout the golf industry. So, with other areas and other municipalities that I've shared about, they've expressed excitement for what we're doing. I definitely take notice to what they do as well. And as a lifelong golfer and a professional in the golf industry, these opportunities, they're not isolated from golf's future success. So, like I kind of alluded to, awareness, promotion of who we are, what we have to offer, that's really, really crucial to really get that message out. And ultimately, for non-golfers to be able to connect with that message really in a tangible way. But even further, initiatives like those, they help support future golf growth in a way of, when I think about junior golfers, which is, the main vein for us to have more players in the future. Player development, making Rose City more relevant to these golfers and their families, their parents, their guardians, their significant others. Golfers don't, it's an individual sport, but they don't live in a silo. You know, they have connections. And so having spaces that are more relevant to people in their circle, it really does help support them in their growth. And so, you know, when it comes to the Rose City Trail project, that's where I started to see real alignment. I do see real alignment with the project objectives, with the trail project, and again, what we're trying to do with the golf program. Since the project team has begun their work, I've been working really closely with them. We also have our golf course superintendent that's been in constant contact to ensure that they're aware of our operational needs. And then additionally, we have our clubhouse operator who's contracted. It's Kemper Sports, who does a fantastic job with our Eastside golf courses, including Rose City. And they have definitely played a really big role and will continue as this project goes along as far as getting information out to Rose City golfers. And so that's at the clubhouse. We have an email distribution as well. And so, you know, trying to keep everyone as informed and getting them to engage with this process to the greatest of our ability. And so as you know, Johnny and Jenna carry on, we'll all continue to work really closely. And just wanted to, you know, express my, you know, my support, my excitement for the opportunity where, again, I think that, you know, through lived experience, the people I talk to, there's such a reverence for Rose City Golf Course and its status as open space in the community, and, you know, investment in the golf course is going to help that, you know, continue on and to thrive. So that's what I wanted to share today. Jenna, if you wanted to, maybe if there's anything you wanted to have thrown out, you know, I can take a stab at it, but I just wanted to give that perspective. You know, I think my email will be what's available, but you can share that as well. If you have golf related questions, obviously Johnny Fain and Jenna are the project team, but you know, I'm right there. And again, providing that golf perspective.
That's awesome, Vincent. Thank you so much for being here and providing that little bit of perspective and that viewpoint. And again, we're going to be working together to make sure that the community survey is being cross-promoted between your email list and the project email list, so everybody has a chance to provide input. And again, if you're wanting to talk more technical on golf, please reach out to Vincent. Otherwise, reach out to myself or Johnny, and we are all communicating on the back end to hear these perspectives and voices of the fellow golfers. So thank you for being here, Vincent. I really appreciate that. And next up, we wanted to welcome in our Portland Park Rangers that are here tonight joining us. Thank you, Angela and Alex, for being here. And we're hoping that you can provide some perspective as active duty rangers who are patrolling the site in the area, and speak to kind of what it's like to be a ranger, what it's like to patrol this particular site, and just maybe share with the community some best practices that you all have, and the best way for community members to kind of get a hold of you all as we're all thinking about safety and security on this site. So I'll let you all take it away. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Alex Rowe. I'm a Portland Park Ranger supervisor, and I'm here with my partner, Andrew Tarleton. She's also a Portland Park Ranger supervisor. We both work swing shift and graveyard. So what is we do? Park Rangers, we're Goodwill ambassadors. We also enforce Title 20 rules and some other things like that as well, as far as camping and stuff like that. Let's see, we address issues in the park. You guys can call us at the Ranger Call Center at here, right? It's 503-820-1637. You should get a hold of Ranger Dispatch. If they're non-shift, it'll be forward to 311 up till 8 o'clock. When our dispatch is on, Sunday through Thursday right now, they're on till midnight. So if you guys see any issues in the parks at all, feel free to give us a call. We're not emergency responders. So we're not going to get there fast, but we will get there as soon as possible. As soon as we get the call and it comes in through to us. I see some, and I'm also real excited about this trail here at Rose City. I have walked Glendoveer before, and I was a little nervous about the golf balls hitting me, but I've never been hit by one. So I'm all real excited to see how this is going to turn out. And yeah, like I said, we're not emergency responders, but we'll try to get there as soon as possible. And we do have rangers that go to Rose City golf course at night that may need to check in on the building, see if anything's getting broken into, and check the locks and stuff like that. Yeah, and my email's on here, alex.arrell@portlandoregon.gov, and so is Angela Tarleton's.
Great, thank you, Alex. Angela, you're welcome to chime in if you have anything else that you'd like to share about this particular space or your process as a parks ranger and patrolling the area.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that we do have a 24/7 coverage. So we have morning rangers, swing rangers, and graveyard rangers. And if there's any issues, like I think I saw a couple of comments about the safety of kids walking the trails, we can have rangers walking the trails. If it's something where the kids are in the morning or getting after school and there's like issues or anything like that, then we can of course arrange rangers to be present at that time to kind of help alleviate some of that stuff that happens in the parks. And yeah, we have rangers in that area on daily patrolling Rose City Park, so the patrolling would be no issue at all whatsoever. So yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, I recommend folks to put down some of this contact information, and we will also be including this information on how to best contact your rangers in the area onto the project FAQ page, so everybody has that outreach and contact information for the future moving forward. All right. And so we just have a few short minutes left in our meeting tonight. Again, thank you all for joining us on the evening call. I wanted to talk a little bit about our next steps that are going to be coming up after this meeting. So the meeting has been recorded. It's going to be capturing the questions that have been answered. We'll also be providing the written transcript. And so those things are going to be posted onto the project webpage. If anybody joined a little bit later or had to leave early, feel free to go back and review this recording, review those transcripts. If you know of folks who were not able to join us tonight, please share it out with them. We will be sharing out the link to the recording as well via newsletter and on the Portland Parks and Recreation social media channels. And we'll also be asking our partners, neighborhood associations, school groups, resident organizations, and the golf course to help us promote that recording link so everybody has access to it. Later on in this week, we're going to be opening up a community survey, and that community survey is really going to be diving into a lot of the designs that we showed here tonight with specific questions of where we're looking for that community input. We're going to be asking about that Back Nine Nature Trail. We'll be asking about specific amenities that we want to see in the park, or where community priorities are. And so we're hoping that folks can contribute and provide input on that survey. There'll be some open text boxes where you can provide more general input and perspective from your experiences in the park. And all of that is going to be contributed and sent to the project team and the design team, so we can make some informed decisions about what the community is wanting from this trail system and this project. And then after we have that community survey posted and opened, it's going to be open for 30 days. So we're making a big effort to get a push and get as many folks as we can get to contribute to that survey provide that feedback. All of that feedback is going to be going to the design team, as I just shared. And then there will be a period of internal design review, not only with the design team, but a panel of technical experts and decision makers at Parks. And so we'll all be looking at that to provide another round of design drawings that you'll see where community input has been reflected in those options. And then
Also,
we'll
Jenna,
Oh,
I'll
sure.
hop in. I'm
Pop
gonna
it
be
in.
working on, sorry about that. I'm gonna be working on posting these proposed designs onto the project website in a PDF format. So if you want to print those out, it'll be an 11 by 17 format. So if you want to print that out, just to have or to make comments on or to draw on, make your own recommendations, feel free to do that. And you can also go into the golf course clubhouse and give them those notes on the actual designs, and they'll get those to me. I'm periodically at the clubhouse too, so I can gather all those notes from you.
That's a great point, Johnny. I also wanted to share that we're going to print out paper copies of the survey in color in large format. So if folks are not able to take the survey online, they're welcome to take that survey in a paper format. We will have copies available at the golf course clubhouse. And I am always happy to deliver paper copies to individuals who are making those accommodation requests. My contact information is found on the project webpage. It's also going to be found on the survey itself. So I'm happy to provide paper copies of the survey if folks can't take it online. I'm also happy to support individuals taking the survey over the phone, so I can work with folks to provide their input on the survey over a phone call, or I can also set up a Zoom meeting for folks to provide their input on that survey if the online option is not accommodating to your needs. So there'll be a variety of ways of where you can get that. Right now, the golf course clubhouse has our printed copy of the project webpage. It also has a printed copy of the project FAQ page, so you can look at those on paper copies as well. So that's where we're at in this project. Still incorporating community design, and we still have more designs to share out with the community following. So you'll be hearing from us before the end of the year, and we are always available via email, phone call, to take feedback there as well. Okay. So we are just shy of our 7:30 conclusion time. I'm going to go back and check in our Q&A. Can we get Jonathan's contact information? Jonathan's contact information is jonathan.fain@portlandoregon.gov, and we can drop that into the chat as well. I just want to say thank you so much for the over 70 participants that joined us throughout the evening. We so appreciate you sharing your time with us and reviewing these design options, asking your questions and providing your input. Big appreciation to the panelists that joined us from the Portland Parks and Recreation team, from the golf teams. Just a lot of appreciation and gratitude to all the people who are here and contributing to make this project happen and prioritizing community needs. So with that, I will conclude. And Johnny, if you have any parting words.
Yeah, my email address is shown here, but it's johnny.fain, johnny.fain@portlandoregon.gov.
Great. And you can drop that in the chat. It's also on the project webpage, as I've said before. All right, folks. So look out for more to come on that community survey, and we will be talking with you all soon. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for being
everybody.
here tonight.
Appreciate your feedback and input.
Yeah, thank you for your time, folks. We appreciate you. All right, I'm going to stop our recording.
I just wanted to let you know that not all the questions appeared in the Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Sharon. We'll look at it and try to address them.
Yeah, I couldn't see them at all. Thanks.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
saw some that if you got kicked out of the meeting, when
Oh,
you
I'm not-
rejoin, they go away. Like if your internet dropped out, I saw that happen on mine.
Not me. Nothing happened. So they're just
Huh.
not there in the Q&A. I couldn't find all of them. You were addressing questions that were not posted on my Q&A.
Okay. Thanks, Sharon. We appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.